And then, you know, I don't know if Matt's still assigning people to breakout rooms, so we'll just continue. Now, I think the only person on this panel that I've met was Diane through HPEC. And so, I mean, I would love it if, you know, do you guys all know each other? Am I the only one? Okay. So maybe if we could just, oops, are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Oh, I just lost my screen. Oh, there we go. Okay, all of a sudden everybody was gone. Maybe just go around and just, you know, kind of share who you are. And then Barbara and I took Matt's original questions and tried to adjust them a little bit so they had more of a health bent to them. So, and I'll start. I'm Julie Miller. I'm from the California East Bay in Pleasant Hill, California. And for the last 20 years, I've been teaching elementary PE as an itinerant teacher. So I called it, you know, hit and run PE because I've had up to 8 schools in a week. And our district didn't do elementary PE till 4th grade. And then a year ago, just before COVID, they cut all of elementary PE. So I am now middle school. I started a new middle school during COVID. So when I come back this year, it's going to feel like a new job all over again. And, you know, I'm excited for the health panel. We had one person representing health in our district, which is crazy because we have 30 elementary schools and like 7 middle schools and I think 5 high schools. So health definitely needs to be improved in our district. Barbara, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go next. My name is Barbara Gratton, and I am a retired elementary PE teacher, and I also did middle school some time ago. And I've been on the committee now, I think this is 6th year. I think so. You know, it's a way for me to stay connected, which I love, and still enjoy retired life.
Diane, do you want to go next?
Muted.
Good. You think you get that down after teaching all year?
Hey, we're not on Zoom if somebody don't do it right. I mean,
yeah. So I'm Diane Farthing. I was in the Bay Area forever, but I just moved down to Southern California. I got to retire as well. I got to work on the California Framework Committee, which Janice will talk more about. And what else? I'm the co-director for HPEC, professional development group in California.
Let's see, how about Janice?
Hello, everyone. So I'm with Orange County Department of Education in California. I do have my certificate to teach health in middle and high school in California. So I was able to do that for a short period of time. I was a recipient of the huge downfall of class size reduction in California back in 2005-09. And I was able to find a job where I got to work under grants that were health related. So I was nutrition for a long time. And lo and behold, I was able to land at Orange County Department of Education in Southern California, where 3 years ago, we received a grant from CDE, California Department of Ed, to be able to create all the professional learning around the new framework that Diane was able to help write. So I've been having honestly the job of my dreams to be able to look at how we can teach health better, promoting it, describing it, creating tools to help teachers have more confidence in teaching health, and with the way that the framework is written, to include more safe and inclusive practices and inclusionary lesson ideas. It's a pivotal tool, I feel, that I'm asking if I could share with anyone and everyone. So on the shoulders of the greats that did write the framework, I have the wonderful opportunity of sharing about it. So during our time together, I'd love to give you some highlights of that website when it's time.
Sure. Okay, how about Maria?
I'm Maria Schneider, and I live in Broadview Heights, Ohio, and which is like in between Cleveland and Akron. And I've been teaching in that school district. I'll be starting my 25th year, 26th year there. But I was born and raised in this community, and then I had the opportunity to go back to where I learned health education from my own father at the high school. So it's kind of like full circle that way, and with our family. And I also coach gymnastics, our high school team. My family owns a gymnastics school here in the area as well. So
I was a gymnast.
You were a gymnast? Yeah, I tried also. I wasn't very good. I tried at Kent State for a few years too, but the best day was when I got to give my grips up forever. So I teach primarily now health, and then I had started a life skills class, which is kind of like in my district replacing family consumer science or home ec. And so the kids still want to cook in there, but I'm also trying to extend what we started in health class in 7th grade with some of the standards and kind of dive deeper a little bit and look at more of our dimensions, our circle there. So and I have 2 boys. One's going to be a senior this year, and I'm already crying every minute that this is my last, and my other is going to be a freshman. So
That's hard. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Bartlett from Massachusetts, entering my 14th year teaching middle school health at the Holton Richard Middle School in Danvers, Mass. I coach high school cross country and track and field as well. Next year, I'll be, in addition to teaching health, be serving as our building's social emotional learning coach. And what that means yet is really still to be determined. When our administrative team figures that out, I'll have a better indication of what that is. And that's that. National Health Teacher of the Year for this year, 2021 as well. I don't know if Maria mentioned that she's a district teacher of the year. I might have missed that, but she should have mentioned that too. So
Thank you.
I was born in Massachusetts,
where in Mass?
Malden.
Oh, my dad grew up in Malden.
My dad was from Boston too.
Cool. All right. Small world.
all world.
Cassie.
Hi, let's see, I'm a 21-year health and physical education teacher, middle school in Brownsburg, Indiana, which is a suburb of Indianapolis, originally from the Chicago area, and kind of liked the slower pace in Indiana after I met my husband while I was attending school in Indiana. And let's see, I was the 2018 Midwest District Health Teacher of the Year, and encouraged Maria to apply because we're good friends. We met through Fuel Up to Play 60 years ago, and I was like, you got the stuff, you got to do this. But I remember when we were learning about, who all the other candidates were, we're like, oh, it's Jeff Bartlett. It's going to be Jeff Bartlett. So congratulations, Jeff, and everybody who's been at that level. That's really impressive. Just shows a lot of dedication to your teaching. But I'm on the executive board for Indiana Shape, and I mostly work with partners and advocacy, and kind of taken on some projects as we don't currently have a president-elect, and we're also missing a marketing and communications person. So I'm kind of jack of all trades right now and helping out. We've just had some crazy stuff, and our president just had a baby. So we're like super crazy busy and planning for our in-person conference in November. I think we do have a couple of slots left for health presenters and also middle school PE, if you know anybody. But yeah, last year we were all in person all year long. We started July 30th, and we were everybody in person every day all year, and doing very stringent quarantining and doing the things and the distancing and the masks and everything. And so really excited to get back. I'm actually back in 2 weeks. I'll be back to school.
Wow.
But I got plenty of vacation in this summer. I've already had 2 vacations, and then Louisville and then camping before we go back. So busy summer.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh gosh, thank you guys for all being here. Kim.
Yeah, wow, that sounds, I can't believe you've been in the whole time. Didn't have like COVID break. I can't even imagine that. Like, I'm trying to picture it even. I can't even see it. My name is Kim Ballard. I am a assistant professor at Campbell University, which is a really small Baptist college in North Carolina. Very liberal Baptist college, if that, you can even put those two words together in the same sentence, especially in the South. But I taught high school for 10 and a half years. I was assistant athletic director, assistant principal for a while. I did a very small stint in middle school before I decided that I was going to change careers, I thought. So bless you all for middle school. But I decided to go get my master's instead. And then I went back. I was graduated from Appalachian State University for undergrad and master's, and I went back to UNCG while I was working at the Department of Education here in North Carolina for 11 and a half years. I went back and got my doctorate at UNC Greensboro. I started teaching adjunct at Campbell University for a while I worked with the Sport Time program and Spark for a while. And now all I do is teach, which I love. I'm president-elect for Shape America, and I'm president-elect for NC Shape. So a lot going on. Oh, and as far as health goes, I'm also on the board for RMC Health in Colorado, and we just hired Shelley Foll. I don't know if you guys remember her, but she's amazing, and she was the president of the President's Council when Drew Brees was the president or whatever. She's very well known, so she's going to really take RMC Health to another level, and just keep your eyes open over the next year around health education with RMC Health.
Cool. All right. And last we have Kayla, one of our committee members.
Hi, I'm Kayla Ellman. I'm really kind of here to hear all of your different responses and ask questions. Let's see, this is my second year on the EPEW committee, and kind of a funny way of finding EPEW was really just a Google search and just needing some type of PE family and community. And my first time walking in to a conference, I hear my name, and it's my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Scott Wilson. So kind of funny how my teacher, and now I'm like a colleague. But I teach elementary PE on the Central Coast, and this is, wow, I think I'll be starting my 6th year in the fall.
Nice. All right. Thank you. Well, so we came up with a list of questions, and I think it'd be great to have this discussion among ourselves. Let's see. Barbara, do you want to take one of the first questions?
Sure. How about just in general, what does a health teacher teach about?
I'm not answering first, but that's a great question, because from the higher education perspective, I've been asking this question, well, not only asking the question, but I've been on a sort of a torment about the praxis test, the teacher exam that we have to take in North Carolina. I don't know, all the states don't have to take it, but I took it this summer just to see what was on it, because kids are struggling with it so much. And I was like, really? That stuff's on there? So it was the farthest thing from health skills. So I'm excited to see what you guys say.
So anybody step up and take this question?
I think this is such a great question that every health teacher should have an answer that they can pull out of their pocket. Because when people think health is dispensable, or, oh, that's an easy class, it's like, wait a minute, skill development is not easy. Memorizing, like my kids, they'll go like, can you just give us a true false test? And you're like, that's not health education. And so to be able to say, you know, we're teaching life skills, that you can
Yeah, to me, when I talk to my students, I tell them right off the bat, like first couple days, this is going to be different. You're going to be frustrated. Sometimes you're going to hate me because I'm going to make you do things that are different and hard and you've never thought that way before. But my goal as their health teacher is to prepare them with skills to handle lots and lots of health situations that might come up throughout their lives, because everyone's going to encounter different things. And so my goal is to prepare them for whatever life might bring to them.
The analogy that I use, going off of what Cassie was talking about, is trying to kind of fill your metaphorical toolbox with tools that you may need at some point in your life, and maybe you don't need them, but you might. And every tool has a specific purpose. Like my toolbox, some days I might need a hammer, you might need a wrench, whatever it is, but you have to be prepared for all scenarios. And I try to emphasize to them that the real test, and this is from one of Andy Milne's students, right, is life. And it's really about you being your healthiest self over the course throughout your lifetime. And I say, if I run into you 20 years from now, I should be able to ask you like, hey, how's your health? And you would have an answer for me. And hopefully what we learned in middle school health allows you to answer that in a positive way.
I'm kind of right in the same boat as Jeff and Cassie. I kind of look at my life skills students, and I tell my health students also, like, I'm going to help you to be more of a functioning person in society. That's my job when you leave my class, is I want you to be able to function. And someone on Twitter the other day was asking, I think Sarah Bennis was asking like what everybody says for this question. And someone added like a productive member of society to like my quote. And I thought, that's exactly it though. It's, how can you use these skills? And so teaching those tools for them, because like I told them, we could sit here and memorize and memorize, vocab words and the parts, but how to find that information. So let's focus on developing those skills in that small time that we have together. And it's small.
I really wish we had a better definition of health literacy than the public health model, because it just tends to focus on accessing products and services. And there's so much more in my mind to what health literacy looks like, and then it gets all like long and wordy because you're like, well, you have to be able to access information so you can make good decisions, so you can talk about it to people, and you can get on to throwing in every skill. But I don't know. I've yet to find, and I've tried to make one of my own, but a really good, strong definition of this is what our goal is.
Well, that kind of piggybacks on our next question, which is there a curriculum that can be used both for PE and health? Because, we don't have a separate health teacher in my middle school and in elementary. Health meant remind them to use sunscreen, remind them to drink water, but nothing focused or comprehensive. Is there such a thing?
When we compare the health standards and the physical education standards, there's not a lot of overlap, and we get grouped together all the time with PE, but unless we're talking about the nutrition and fitness content area and health, there isn't a lot. Now, the standard 5 in PE is all about be nice, communicate, cooperate. And that's definitely our health stuff, because you need to make decisions and that. But I don't know that, I don't think it's totally unreasonable to expect a health teacher to teach the PE standards and for the PE teacher to teach the health standards.
Yeah, I've been around a long time. I don't know of anything for that. But I will go back and say to your response in the first question, I think there's one question about decision making. The rest of the stuff you talked about is not on there. So we're not preparing our teachers to teach the stuff that you guys are talking about. And there's a big gap, a big problem we got to address at some point about that.
Our teachers who go, oh, I had an English teacher and said, oh, I'm sick of reading papers. I want to teach health. And she went and took the test, and our state test, and she could pass that test, but she has absolutely no idea how to do skill development. And it's just so unfair when that's we know behavior change isn't going to happen.
So I was going to bring that up too. In Massachusetts, technically my certification is health/family and consumer sciences. And I've never done any family and consumer science stuff at all. And the test is really, it was back in 2007 when I took it, was really just health content. And a lot of that health content, like there was a whole section on environmental health and wellness that isn't really covered at all. But our state standards in Mass haven't been updated since 1999 when I was in middle school. And they've been trying to update them. And they had a big committee, and Mary Conley and Sarah Bennis and all, the heavy hitters were on it to try to get them to be skills-based. And I think it's just kind of in limbo right now. So for me, being in the classroom, there's sometimes a disconnect between teachers trying to get into the field and what they're being taught to do. And a lot of people too, there are very few just health ed specific teacher prep programs. A lot of them, are in a phys ed program and might do a minor in health ed and do a short, pre-practicum experience. So then you have that angle as well to think about as we try to get more people into the field. But as far as health and PE, I'm only certified in health. I've never taught PE. I would not be the best person to do that because I'd have no idea what I was doing, so just something else, I guess, to think about.
Although I have to say, in several presentations that I've done related to skills-based health, it is very much the same as teaching PE skills. You introduce the skill, how it's used, where it's used, kind of give them an overview. You break it down into the parts, you show them what it looks like, you demonstrate it, you maybe demonstrate it slightly wrong and ask them, what am I missing here? So it, kind of follows a model of, I do this, and then we are going to do it together. You're going to help me, I'll help you, you help each other. We're going to give feedback. And then now, once you've practiced it in a small group, now you are going to do it. Now show me this, and still getting feedback, whether it's self-checks or peer, commenting, or it's from the teacher feedback. So I think you'd do just fine, Jeff.
I think Janice had something to share.
I posted it in the chat because I was trying to find it and we moved on to the next question. But if anybody needs it again, I can share it in the chat. We found it when the framework came out that we wanted to be able to soundly and consistently describe health literacy. And so we made the document that I shared in the chat. Not only to give words, but the visual of the pyramid that we've made, or if you want to call it a graphic however you want to describe it. To me, it's the increase in health literacy that happens as you develop all of the skills, right, that have to go with health education. So we found as we were presenting about the framework, we were presenting to nurses and administrators, especially administrators, you guys, needed that description to be able to promote and encourage health education within their districts. So as you guys are talking, I know this is very teacher-based, but I would like to encourage us all to be putting on that administrator hat and being able to know what's needed for an administrator to be supported and to know like the mandates and the laws that have to, the ed code that is going to support health education, because, and I'm shifting the conversation a little bit, as many as us, the health is getting taken away. There's been more mandates of what needs to be taught in schools that is health related, that is being taught by other people that are not trained, right? And I'm preaching to the choir right now. So, later, when I show you the website, we've made in a whole administrator tab that is supporting administrators, advocating for health education, explaining how it connects with social emotional learning. You don't need to go buy a curriculum about social emotional learning. Let's have health education be our universal supports for all students. Let's show you what needs to be taught based on the standards in each grade level for health education. You don't go out there and make your own curriculum. There are standards. There is a framework. Every third grader a third grade teacher doesn't have to teach all 6 content areas of health. But until that is all explained, I think it sounds overwhelming to teach health, and probably even to a PE teacher who's now being told, teach more health.
Yeah, definitely.
Janice, did you?
Go ahead.
No, please. Did your district come up with that, or is that Orange
That
County's, or is that California's?
California Department of Ed is using it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Way to
yes, we
go.
do have our standards, but very closely aligned to national. You'll see, right? Just
Yeah, that's awesome.
advocacy instead of health self-management, practicing health enhancing behaviors. And
love
some
it.
of the tools that we've used are very similar to RMC. You mentioned that earlier. We kind of took that in combination with the SHAPE
Good.
health textbooks that have been written, and we came up with something that we felt was best for California. So you're going to notice very common, a lot of commonalities there.
Good. That looks awesome. I love it.
Wait to see the website.
I was going to move to another question, which is, you know, there are so many topics that are covered in health and probably listed in your standards. How do you establish a safe environment for your students so that they can feel comfortable with the topics that you bring up and you know, some of the other things that could be quite sensitive?
I think something that's important, while I expect everyone to be engaged and do something to show me that they're engaged, whether it's a lot of times I'll ask a question and say, jot down a few notes in your own on your own paper. You're not going to turn this in. This is just for you to have some ideas down. So if there's a discussion, you have something to go back to as in terms of what you wrote down, and then you can add to it or change it. But I make the sharing out loud optional. I don't force it. Some kids are just not comfortable sharing those things, and I want them, but I find when I make it optional, I end up having more kids end up sharing, because they know it's safe. They know they don't have to, but then when, you know, we go over ground rules including everyone is coming from a different place, we can listen and possibly disagree, but we have to do so with respect, regardless of how we feel. Then kids start going, maybe I do feel strongly enough about this to say how I feel. Also inclusive language, you know, just, you know, I really, looking back on my earlier years in teaching, I just didn't really think of anything odd about when we start talking healthy relationships, saying, well, when a boyfriend and girlfriend XYZ, now I'm like, why did I do that? Like, just when two teens are dating, you know, when teens are dating, this should happen. In a healthy relationship, these things should happen, you know, and just kind of making that shift where I trained myself to restate it and think of it differently has made a big difference.
Some of the resources that we've made, or we're calling them model learning activities, where it's a lesson plan basically for a teacher to see what it looks like to teach health, where you're inclusively including your students and assessing them properly and things like that. But in so many of it, we've included be prepared for the teacher. And what that is like a section where the teacher could think ahead of time. Do I need to start the lesson off by saying, we're about to go into a conversation about suicide prevention, and this might cause you to question or bring up feelings. And so therefore, I want you to know that there's all of these places, you know, if you need to step out for a little while, if you need me to help you get connected to the school nurse, like you lay all that out first, and creating that environment in the classroom, which is kind of what Casey was just talking about as well, but giving it a little bit more definition and that support before you even start. And again, those things are in the framework in California. So I'm super proud of that. But that was a huge thing that I felt is a nuance to teaching that we probably hadn't thought about before.
I think maybe piggybacking on that, we just finished a session called Creating a Safe Space for Transgender and Non-Binary Students. And are there things being developed at your sites to make things more accessible or inclusive for these students?
I think, on my end, and I come from, my district is very conservative in many ways on some of the viewpoints, although our prom queen this year was transgender, first ever. So, I feel like our school district is moving forward in those ways where we as a staff are being more inclusive and understanding. It's just trying to change that mindset of, I might have already lost my chain of thought for your question there, Janice, but hold on a second. But I feel like it's time. And like, I saw Kayla's question and like, where else do you find that inclusive it's all in finding yourself to get with other professionals, Kayla, that are like-minded of wanting to make that change. I know last summer I was trying to explore different, and learn and grow in a lot of ways. And I found a group, thank goodness, and Kim was in it. And we met once a week, like 4 of us, and kind of helped to gain more knowledge and be in a comfortable space to kind of ask those questions and understanding. And I think that's kind of where we need to, as teachers, let the kids know too, that this is their safe space to, if you don't understand, well, I just don't understand transgender, or I don't understand, homosexuality, or, whatever, but to give them that space to be able to ask those questions and answer them in a way that it's not just hearing it from one point of view and one answer, if that makes sense.
To build off that too, we've actually had conversations with a group of students when we first started teaching about, like, really revamped our whole curriculum to cover a lot of the human sexuality content. We met with a group of students who knew a lot more at the time than we did. This was a couple of years ago, and they were able to give us some great feedback around language that we thought we should use or shouldn't use. The students come in, at least in my school, they come in every year knowing just more and more. They have that background knowledge as well, just because of the world that they're growing up in. So I think, approaching it with honesty, but also just stating information. We, within human sexuality, pair the skill of analyzing influences. So it's been a great matching for that content area, because students are not being told to think a certain way. They're just analyzing influences, and sometimes not even their own, but the influences. We put together little case studies or use examples from different, movies, TV shows, things like that. And that's been one way for them to kind of explore that content area in a way that doesn't necessarily require them to reveal, to anybody what their thoughts are on any of that content.
Thank you. My next question is, now that we have this big thing, COVID, what are some topics that you teach, thinking about post-COVID life and the students that have struggled with it both during and maybe still are, and how you help them?
Teach health. Right, personal and community health, definitely talking about how and why it happened, and vaccines. But of course, I can imagine we're going to have a lot of parent classes and supports, and talking to students about vaping and coping strategies, and maybe some habits that have started that we need to reconsider, or maybe there was a decrease in vaping too, though, because of not having all those influences at school. We're really curious to find out. But mental health is just going to be a huge focus and a big start right out of the gate. And if there's ever been a time to promote health education, it's now, right? And including it, even if it's, a lot of districts in Orange County are saying, well, the first 15 minutes of the day is going to be social emotional learning time. Well, we're going to be teaching health during that time, and understanding, all of those things as much as possible, and giving resources to teach it.
There are so many good real world examples because of COVID. When these last 2 semesters, when I taught about accessing valid information products and services, especially the information piece, and validating your source, making sure that it doesn't come from a meme, but it comes from a non-biased source of information. And we kind of went through this, and the kids were just like, and I said, how many of you feel like you're better at this than your parents right now? And they were all like, yep. I'm like, okay. So when you see examples shared around you, you have the information to push back on it and say, well, where did that come from? Well, do you trust that source of information? And they were like, oh, this is awesome. So that was kind of fun, but definitely agree with mental emotional health. Maria and I have worked really hard together to come up with better resources for our kids that's more focused on positive mental health and how do we build and maintain good mental health, because everyone deserves good mental health, and teaching those coping skills, teaching those resilience strategies, and how to communicate our feelings and be supportive of others who are struggling. Those have become so essential.
That it's exactly the same, like the mental and emotional health piece, with my district being back in school. But what I noticed when they did come back is, I think a focus, and I know California, I believe, have been pretty much virtual for a year and a half in most districts. And I think what's going to be so important when those kids come back into those classrooms there is communicating. Mm-hmm. Able to talk, and that's those interpersonal communication skills that we can build on. Yes, that SEL piece, like they're going to take the first 15 minutes, but it's embedded all day, especially in PE and health. One of the ways I connected, and I might be answering another question from later about something that I learned from COVID that I'm continuing here, is we all do our instant activity or bell work at the beginning. A lot of us do, and during COVID, I was doing it to take attendance. But the questions that I've always put, and they've written in a notebook in the years past, and maybe they shared in discussion. Otherwise, I didn't really see those answers. I learned so much about my students that I wouldn't have known, and now with COVID, that taught me that we're going to continue it. I'm blessed with one-to-one computers, so they're able to answer those. And I read every answer and I give them, points for the day or whatever. But it's just to kind of get to them to learn how to communicate and get those feelings and thoughts out. And a lot of those questions were those SEL questions, type, check-ins. And, but yeah, get them. And then with that said, you want to get them off the electronics as much as you can, because they have been on the computer for a year and a half. So, I think that just so they communicate face to face, because they don't know how after, being virtual for that long.
It was so apparent when you would put them in breakout rooms and they've got their cameras off or they're not talking, and you go in and you go, I'm giving you the chance to talk to someone, and they didn't take it. And so to go that whole time without having those skills. And I'm really worried for the sophomores next year, because they never got a chance to learn how to be freshmen. They're not going to be able to handle the workload, which we cut down to next to nothing. They didn't get a chance to build those relationships. And that communication piece, especially with COVID, was so important, being able to say, can you step back? I'd like to keep 6 feet apart, or, oh, your mask fell below your chin. And so all of those skills that you didn't do because we were so isolated, boy, that was so hard to try to do through Zoom. That was such a challenge, but so important.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had 2 hours to go through all of our questions. But since we don't, I thought maybe we could go around, and if each of you could share, it could be just whatever your nugget of wisdom is, your experience, comment, just one thing that you'd kind of like to leave us with on this topic.
I can start. And actually, I think Janice actually summarized what I've been thinking. about how health ed can be the universal support for students, specifically around social emotional learning. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in my presentation in Louisville next week. But I think you see so many advertisements for SEL programs and curriculums. And one of the big things, and I wanted to go off on a Twitter rant about this, about how they all market themselves as being like zero teacher prep. Just throw on, this video or throw on this thing. And we need to acknowledge that teachers are busy, right? And we don't want to put more onto their plate. But Character Strong, a SEL company, they always say this is not another thing on the plate. It is the actual plate. And so I think that mindset's important. And I think schools should realize if you have a robust health ed program, then you already have SEL supports embedded into what you do. And now how do we extend those beyond those four walls of the health classroom into the rest of the school, and then from there into the homes and into the communities? So just something to think about. And I think health ed now, we all know how important it is. It's always been important to us, but now what will we do to educate our schools and our communities about that importance?
Yeah, thanks. Kim, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Well, I just think the one thing I don't know if you guys are doing it or not already, but I think to get real involved, that whatever it's time to do your school improvement plan, I just think that's a great time to get in and get known and get some words in, because that's where money's going to implement those school improvement plans. And and maybe you don't get it the first year, and be flexible, but the next year we are working on it, or maybe that's where you get in, that we're doing some of that. Why don't see, we're already doing it, then that's one less thing they have to put in there. They can already give themselves credit for it, right? And you're doing it, so they just have to make more time for it or something. I would see how I could work that a little bit.
Okay, that's good advice. Cassie.
You got me dumbfounded on this.
Want us to come back to you?
Yeah, come back to me.
Okay, let's see. Diane's not there. Janice.
Kim, I'm taking what you're saying and definitely saying that right with you, because I feel like anytime that you can help them answer their questions and provide the solution, they will use it. And so if we can find those questions that they have and the gaps that are happening, especially like I'm referencing mandates and ed code of what has to be taught, suicide prevention, sexual health. If you show them how to do it, they will do it. Don't make them have to create it and figure it out on their own. So if I could take a couple seconds to share my screen and let you guys see some of the things that we have as resources in California that you're more than welcome to duplicate, use, whatever the case might be. We have
drop a
this
link in, if you don't mind, in a little bit too.
I'm sorry?
Just copy and paste.
Oh,
the link
yeah.
in
Sure,
a
I'll do
while.
that right now. So californiahealtheducation.org. And feel free to browse around while I'm chatting too. But really, if I could just give an overview, as educators, there's tabs up here, which is going to be all of the standards and supports that have to go with teaching health. And the way that the framework is written is by grade spans. And so you'll notice that that's why it's clumped this way. For administrators, these are great tools that they could use to help promote health education. Also understanding why we need to teach health and the tools that they'll need to write their LCAP, well, we call it LCAP in California, but any of those prevention plans and implement the school improvement plans. And then we also have a family and community tab, which is going to be very, very helpful for both sharing, communicating with the community, but we're
we lost Janice for a second.
Yeah, it's frozen, I think. Probably because of the website running. I don't know.
That might be.
Uh-oh, Janice, you froze.
But we got the link in there.
Yeah, we got the link.
It looks good though. What little bit we've seen.
Yeah.
Maybe she might drop and come back. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's see. Maria, did you have any last parting thoughts you'd like to share?
Sure. I'm so envious of California. I really am. Like, in the fact that California has that opportunity to like, I feel like health is kind of important there for them, you know, when I see the comprehensive sex ed and no, all right, not yet. Well, it's at least
like-
what you're doing on your end. I've seen that website that Janice shared, and I think it would be awesome, but to try to get, I think what we need to do as health educators is to get more on board and get more a part of showing how important what we teach is. And, you know, like we were saying earlier, there, you know, health and PE, most people just lumped health on to their PE degree. And especially in Ohio. And so health has just always been like the extra class they got to cover. But yet our legislators just keep throwing things that we need to teach. And they're like, I'm like, who's doing it? You know, and where are we doing those things? And Ohio is a hot mess. I mean, now they just snuck in our budget bill that sex ed needs to be approved at every district. And like that you have to write to the parents and all of this stuff. And I've gone down to speak, but they just don't want to hear it. And I think that's what it is. I think advocacy for health ed is just got to be on the forefront in every state. I want to like just go sit in every single, I'll sit down with Jill Biden. She's an educator. Let's tell her. But seriously.
That's awesome. Diane, we'll go to you next and then we'll come back and finish up with you, Janice, okay?
I'm just like, yes, everything you said. I think that teachers are not like those of us who've been the Western District Teacher of the Year or whatever. I don't go around telling people I got those awards. Teachers aren't usually very good about saying, I think I'm good at my job and this is what I do. And I think hopefully with COVID that people are getting a clue just how hard teaching is. I'm not sure that we've changed that, but if we don't advocate for ourselves, it's not going to happen. There are tons of districts in California that do not have separate health classes, and they're supposed to be coloring all of our legislation, and they're just not.
Right.
And it's sad because every student deserves that information, but I think it's up to us to, we don't have hardly anybody even becoming a health teacher. It's always an afterthought, like you said, Maria.
That's true. Thank you. And then Janice, we can finish up with you.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I don't know if that was something that I had pushed or what. So I shared the link, but I don't know where I got cut off. And maybe I could just leave you for a couple of minutes to review it or let me know, you know, because I'm going off of Maria's comment as well. Like, you know, California kind of stands on its own. New York, I know, is one of those too that, you know, is kind of, some people say leading the way. Some people say, you know, going down the wrong path. It's very controversial and I understand that. So basically, I just wanted to let you know of the teacher resources that are there. So I really encourage you to look at the educator tab. We've written guides to help teach skills. Like Casey was saying, that if you know how to teach a skill, it's no different than in PE, but with health, you need a little bit more examples. And so we've created guides, we've created posters and the model learning activities as well, where we've integrated universally designing lessons, social emotional learning connections to help the teacher to be able to say, look, I can teach social emotional learning with health. Here's what it looks like. Again, it's those things that are already created, meant to build a teacher's capacity, not a standalone lesson and say I've taught health too. So please know that that's not meant to be curriculum, but more or less, this is what ideally health could look like and your goal to get there. If you want more reviews on the health education website, I'm hearing a lot of you are going to be in Kentucky and I'm going to talk about it there as well too.
Well, thank you for bringing us those resources. And we're going to come back to Cassie.
Just one quick tip is for the advocacy purpose, to communicate with like-minded individuals in the building, including your school nurse, your counselors, social workers, school psychologists, special ed teachers. A lot of the kids that are in special ed programs are especially needing coping strategies. And so that, you know, kind of be thinking about who could benefit from knowing this. And then when it comes down to the administrators being frustrated about what's going on with kids, when somebody else like the counselor coming in and going, well, what Cassie teaches in health class is exactly that. And, you know, when the science teachers are borrowing the health teachers' materials on how to find valid information sources and how to critique a website, and they're using that now in global studies, then the administrators start to go, huh. So it's not just Cassie saying she's good at this stuff. It's like other teachers say that, huh, maybe there's something to it. And then maybe they get a little bit more buy-in. So sometimes when you have some resistant administrators, you have to kind of work your way around the back door. But I encourage you to reach out to everybody in your local community and in your school that can help kind of build your cause.
And students too, you know, youth voice and hearing what they're learning. And for a principal to hear that their students are presenting at a local city council meeting and talking about a vaping law that they want to promote, you know, can you imagine how much health is going to be brought to the forefront?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you guys for all this information. Thank you for staying the extra time too, because we definitely went over time. We will share this. This will be on our website and the EPEW YouTube channel so that other people will have access to the conversation and the information, the great information everybody shared. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Nice to meet people.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending the 48th Annual Elementary Physical Education Workshop. We're glad you were here.
Please follow us on our social media platforms. EPEW can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Please check out our website for links to more great sessions. Just go to epew-cp.weebly.com and click on the virtual EPEW 2021 tab at the top and scroll down.
EPEW 2021 Educators Assemble would not be possible without the support and dedication from the amazing EPEW committee. The committee has been hard at work for months preparing for this workshop. Thank you to Linda McGee, Barbara Gratton, Scott Wilson, Stephanie Sandino, Julie Miller, Jessica Monlux, Kayla Ailman, Shelby Lozano, Andrea Chavez, Scott Townsend, and Cindy Chase.
Thank you for attending EPEW, where our motto is, come to learn, leave as family.